I want to illustrate maybe here with one particular issue that is one particularly topical issue. What here the issue is I think, going to be in German-Ukrainian relations if we come to some sort of resolution with regard to the Donbas. So if in a good case scenario, the UN peacekeeping mission is employed to the Donbas, or some other kind of solution is found to the Donbas, I think Germany, from its tradition of legalism, will insist on the implementation of the political parts of the Minsk agreements, which is a very touchy issue in Ukraine. And so my advice here to the Ukrainian sort of leadership would be, if somebody would listen to me, and I've tried to communicate that was very difficult in the Ukrainian context and with Ukrainian politicians, is to somehow adapt Ukrainian policies towards the Donbas and Ukrainian foreign policies to the particularly German approach to the foreign policy and here to the Minsk agreements. What is the issue here? The issue is, of course, that Leonid Kuchma, as a representative in the negotiations of the Minsk agreements, has signed an agreement that would grant a special status and would grant special rights to the currently occupied territories. And Poroshenko has also signed the attached declaration of Germany, Russia, France, and Ukraine. And that thereby, at least in the German understanding, Ukraine has entered certain obligations. The Ukrainian understanding is here, as far as I see it, and correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe somebody here feels competent to correct me on this, is that this has been, of course, an agreement that has been made under pressure, under gunpoint, so to say, and that this was simply an instrument to prevent further Russian military advances into mainland Ukraine. And I would also see it largely this way. And I think the misunderstanding that I often encounter here is that when Germans insist on the formal implementation of the Minsk agreements, then this is in Ukraine seen as a sort of recognition of Russian special rights on Ukrainian state territory. That is not necessarily the case, and the way out here would be, to my understanding, is that Ukraine should find a solution to the Minsk agreements that would, if you would use this Russian phrase, leave the оставить волки сытыми и овцы целыми, to leave the wolves satisfied and the sheep whole. Yes, thank you. I think a solution here that I could imagine here, at least from my perception of how Germans would approach this, would be that Ukraine could, within its decentralization, create a parallel power structure in the currently occupied territories that is not foreseen in the Minsk agreements, but is also not forbidden by the Minsk agreements.